Welcome everyone to the Aliveness Habit, refreshing conversations with everyday masters of aliveness. My name is Hanne Howard. I'm founder of Mind Mood Alive, a coaching company that helps people live in vibrant flow and at ease. And with this series, we are here to help demystify the experience of aliveness by exploring what it means to feel alive and how to tap in more fully into that everyday rapture of aliveness. And today I have invited a very special young woman and friend from Nairobi, Kenya, who I've known for many years, and her name is March Kangsy. And Mercy is a vibrant and creative and enterprising and happy-go-lucky African woman who has a very special knack for making the best of every circumstance and of life, despite very, hardships that have come along the way. She is one of the very first kids that my mom, Hanne, crossed paths with and started taking care of. I think it was like 15 years ago. Mercy, you won't be able to tell me if that's true or not, but I think it's like close to that, along with her 4 siblings after their mom died. And this encounter and others just like it formed the roots of our family-based nonprofit, Hanne Howard Fund, that my mom started, in a project that has helped over 100 vulnerable and orphaned kids become self-reliant. And as a beneficiary of HHF, Mercy has grown to care enormously about her community and about giving back. And she now runs a girls' mentorship and empowerment initiative called Stellar Girls Kenya. She's going to share a little bit about with us. Mercy also recently got married, and she spends her free time writing stories and making and selling beautiful bracelets with Kenyan fabric. I have a whole bunch in my bedroom. She hikes, she cooks, she reads, and she's also a vibrant member of one of my flagship aliveness programs for youth called Bright Minded. So, wow. Mercy, welcome. I love that you're here. Thank you so much for...
What a beautiful introduction. Thank you.
Yes, you're so welcome. I could have kept going, I think, but thank you for being here. You are quite the special woman, and I'm very happy to be having this chat with you, and being able to connect on this word aliveness and on the experience of aliveness. And because I know that you've, the trajectory of your life has had its own, colorful stamp on it. And I'm just curious, as we kick off our conversation today, what does that word mean to you? And how has the experience of aliveness evolved for you in your life?
First of all, I'm so excited to be here. I feel honored to be part of the Aliveness team, because I feel like aliveness is everything that life should be about, as much as we try not to make it so. So for me, aliveness is being in touch with yourself, being in touch with who you really are. So that is what it means to me. So for a long time, I can't say that I've constantly been in touch with myself, because there are seasons when you're just focusing on a particular goal. If, for example, it's school, without mentorship and guidance, you don't really know what exactly being in touch with your feelings or being in touch with your being means. So aliveness to me is being in touch with your feelings, being in touch with yourself.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. It's a really beautiful way of putting it. And has that always been the case for you? Have you always been in touch with yourself in this way that you're describing right now?
Sometimes it's a struggle. Sometimes it's a struggle to be in touch with myself, especially because sometimes there's internal factors that prevent me from being fully in touch with myself, and other times are external factors. So the internal factors might be fear of maybe taking a step because you feel like it will not work out exactly the way you feel it would work out. And then also another internal fear would be unsurety, you're uncertain, and anxiety, you're uncertain about the steps that you're taking in life. Am I making the right decisions? Is this decision affecting me in a positive or a negative way? Is it affecting my friends, my family in a negative or positive way? So the uncertainty of things sometimes make me feel like I'm not in touch with myself. And then also external factors like maybe the company you keep, lack of mentors to tell you this is the exact way you're supposed to go, etc., etc. So I've not always been in touch with myself, but I try sometimes.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious, as you're speaking, I'm thinking, okay, so how do you know that you're in touch with yourself? Like, for all the people that are listening here, and maybe some young people, I mean, how do you know the difference between being in touch with yourself and not in touch with yourself? Like, what's happening in your life and inside, or, that would tell you, what are the signals that tell you, oh, I'm alive right now, I'm in touch with myself? Because sometimes those feelings that enter, I don't know, maybe they're not always as pleasant or euphoric. Yeah. But I'm curious if you have a way of understanding or discerning the difference between the two.
Yeah. So for me, I know myself to generally be, my personality is a personality. I'm quite social. I'm quite happy. I'm extroverted. I have conversations. I like interacting with people. So every time I feel like my mood is low, I know at that time that I'm not fully alive. Every time probably I'm setting a goal and I feel like I'm not actively, I'm active. Every time probably there's an event, there's a group of people and someone is required to lead or be a part of something so exciting, I'm always a part of that. So in an instance where I feel like I'm not as happy, I realize that there's something that needs to be done. There's something I'm not doing because I'm feeling a little bit maybe out of touch with myself.
Yeah, sure. Have you ever had the experience of feeling alive when you're not happy?
Yeah, it can happen. I think I've had that. For example, a good example would be, I'm not feeling really good, but I go work out. I work out, it brings out it, while you're working out, you exhale the bad energy and inhale the good energy. So I might end up working out, but I still don't feel that good. But there's a level of goodness that I feel, but not entirely. I don't know whether that makes any sense.
Yeah, I think I know what you're saying there. So you maybe something has triggered you, maybe you're feeling a certain way, maybe sadness, or maybe you're feeling a little bit disappointed around something. There's some feeling of there's something that's making you feel a bit melancholy, and that if you go and work out, it's going to be supportive, it's going to help you, but you allow yourself to feel that melancholy and that those feelings. Am I capturing them properly? Like, you're not trying to actively push yourself out of that state. You just know that if you work out, you're going to feel, it's going to be a supportive activity for you in that moment.
Yes, gradually, it's just a gradual process, like attaining the joy. So a step at a time. Yeah, that's what exactly I mean.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's such a powerful message, actually, because a lot of times when we feel those emotions that we don't like, we spend a lot of time trying to rid ourselves of that emotion in ways that maybe are not as supportive. Yeah. Right. We numb out, or we run away, or we, do something that's not as supportive. So I think it's really powerful message, actually, what you're saying here, to capture, in that experience of aliveness, is that you can have both the experience of not feeling great, but also doing something that is supportive, and not trying to push yourself anywhere. Just being in that and allowing that to be the case. I think that's really beautiful. So you mentioned fear and uncertainty and sort of a lack of relationship
Yeah,
as being almost things that kill aliveness for you.
sure.
Is that something that you would agree with?
Yeah, fear is sometimes it's constant. It's not something that any human can entirely just rule out of their life progress, right? Fear comes and goes, especially when you're trying out new things, something foreign. Fear has to be there because there's that uncertainty that if I try this thing, will it work out or will it not? But then also the only way we can drive out fear is just pushing forward and trying something out. Yeah. So
And how do
fear,
you,
yes, is one of the ways.
yeah,
Sorry?
I love what you're saying there, because a lot of people have this fear that sets in and it stops them from doing a lot of things. So how do you actually take that step forward in the fear?
For me, I look at my past performance. I use that to benchmark. And then I probably say, at some point, I was very, very afraid of hiking Mount Longonot, for example. Yeah. And I got to a point where I managed to hike to the peak. So if I compare it, and I relate that the experience that I'm fearing now to the one that I conquered before. So I say, if I had managed to do that despite the fear that I had back then, this is no mean feat. I can do it. So I encourage myself, and then I just try it. And then also the thing about fear is that sometimes we fear because we don't give ourselves grace to fail. And that room to fail, because if you don't give yourself room to fail, you'll always be afraid of trying new things, right? So if you give yourself grace and say, it's okay, even if I fail, I will try again. Eventually I'll manage. Yeah.
That's so beautiful. Yeah, I love that. Grace to fail. Yeah, I think that is a mantra, I think, that a lot of young people, certainly, but not just young people, I think all humans can adopt grace to fail, because we often get stuck in the feeling that we can't mess up, that it's not okay to make mistakes, and that mistakes somehow make us lesser.
You are your biggest critique. That's what usually happens. So many people would say so many things, but it won't faze you as much as how the things that you tell yourself are more important than what other people tell you. If you believe that things are hard, you've already fixed it in your mind that it's hard. So it's going to be very hard to convince yourself. So I think as much as a person critiques themselves, it's important to also talk positively to yourself, encourage yourself, tell yourself it's going to be okay. And everything works out from that end.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing all of that. The other thing that I wanted to pick up on that you shared in how you overcome fear, that I think is very important to seal in as well, is the idea of taking small steps. So how you started with one small milestone, and then you went to the next one and to the next one. And I think that that's also a really powerful habit of staying small.
Yeah.
Right. When you're trying to, or when you're wanting to take steps forward, take small steps.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've been to Kenya, as you know, many times, and we've had wonderful times there together. And, I feel, there's a lot of people in the world right now, in Kenya, in the world, that are really struggling. And, there's this element of survival that kicks in, where you're just getting through the day, right? Maybe you don't have work, and you don't have food on the table, and you're surviving, you're getting through the day, you're making ends meet. How does aliveness play into that experience of surviving? And does it change in your perspective?
It's true that in Africa, there's a lot of struggle. Let's say everyone is surviving. Mm-hmm. There's lack of job opportunities, there is anxiety, there's a lot of government instability, economy is not so well. So aliveness in this sense, especially in hard times like that, for me particularly, when you're aware of what's happening externally, you need to work on what you feel inside, because we radiate energy. If you bring out bad energy, the energy is radiated to the people around you, right? Yes. So I think aliveness, in a sense, where there's anxiety, where there is depression, for example, you work on yourself so that the energy that you give out to people is positive energy. You're aware of your being, you're aware of who you really are as a person, so that when you're sharing information with other people, you're more compassionate with others, you're more empathetic, you care because you feel what they feel, you understand their condition and all that. And if you start with the community, you will build a community of people who are empaths, people who are compassionate. And eventually, even in the midst of trauma, in the midst of lack of job opportunities, you have a community of love, a community of compassion. I think that's how aliveness plays in a scenario like that.
Yeah. I love what you're saying. So empathy and compassion, and what I'm hearing there is that those are really the key ingredients for really healthy, thriving, loving community, which is ultimately what holds us in times of hardship. Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, and I think that you are in your work with Stellar Girls and how you are helping youth, particularly women, become more empowered and become more alive ultimately. True. To build themselves from the inside out. I feel like teaching them, is there an element of teaching them how to become more empathetic and more compassionate and more loving with themselves? Is that something that you feel is important in your work?
Again, the same thing goes to Africa. In Africa, the woman is not as empowered much. Mm-hmm. Her voice is not heard a lot, because it's been a condition for the communities that women belong in the kitchen. Women don't deserve certain maybe offices. They don't deserve to sit in certain offices. And then also, if something like that is repeated constantly to even children who are growing up, they will believe it. They will believe that I can't take science as a course in campus, or I cannot do technology, I cannot do math because math is for boys. Mm-hmm. They'll grow up knowing that is what is meant for them. But right now we are in a generation where women can do that too. And also little girls need to know that they are also as powerful. Their voice is also as powerful as the voice of their counterpart, So what we usually try to do with Stellar Girls is to mentor them in all areas of life, not just in school, focusing in school, just telling them that you need to grow as a person, and don't limit your abilities to what the community already knows that is the position of a girl.
Yeah, that is really beautiful. Yeah, so important, especially for our young women. Sure. It's something that I've also noticed, of course, being a woman, but in particular, when I go to Kenya, I definitely notice that there's a big gap. Absolutely, there's a big gap. So I think that your work and the energy and the more work you do with yourself and on yourself, the more you're able to translate that forward. And I think what you said earlier about you know, how you you're taking full responsibility for yourself.
Sure.
And emitting that good energy forward, and that's your contribution, right? I love that, because that's how I frame my aliveness as well, is I'm alive so that I can help other people come alive.
Sure.
And I think it's such a beautiful and powerful message, because a lot of people feel a little bit guilty being in joy and alive when everyone around them isn't.
Yeah.
Right. And they say, well, there's just a bit of guilt that kicks in and goes, well, and I don't know, maybe people who are listening in can resonate with that. And what you've shared is such a powerful reframe, because if you can connect to aliveness, and if you're willing to work on that connection and keeping it strong and powerful, then you are supporting the world and everyone around you. Yeah. So I love that. Thank you so much. What is, I think we're going to have to probably wrap up soon. We could probably go on for hours.
Yeah.
Yes. But what is one thing that you would like people to know about the experience of aliveness? And maybe young people, because I think the youth of today are really struggling, and you are just such a beautiful role model and pillar of hope and love. So what's one thing you'd like young people to know about the experience of aliveness?
One, I have so many in mind, but one that really stands out for me regarding aliveness is being content with what you have at the moment. Because one of the major things that the youth of now are going through is anxiety. There's anxiety about tomorrow, anxiety about what next, and most of it is fueled by social media. You know, in social media, there's everything going on. There's people showing a lifestyle that they're probably not living. And without much guidance, if young people just log into the social media world, they enter, they see these people living lavish lives, and then now they start comparing it to their lives, they start comparing maybe to their school, and then that in turn makes them develop anxiety, a lot of anxiety in their lives. There's a lot of mental health cases going on because of comparison, really, because of comparison. And so one of the things that aliveness does is makes you be content with what you have. And even as you're working towards getting better and working on maybe achieving more success, just being content with what you have, and slowly, a step at a time, doing better for yourself. And not, as they say, Rome was not built in one day. You know, you take a stone and you take one brick, a brick after the other, a brick after the other. And eventually you'll build your castle. So the young people need to just, I can use a slang that says they need to chillax. They need to chillax. They need to just, it gets better over time. They shouldn't rush life. If you rush life, you will not enjoy the process. So that's what I would tell young people.
Oh, that's great. We need to all chillax. I love that. That's awesome. I love that. Well, on that note, I think we will end our beautiful conversation here today. And I appreciate you for everything that you are and that you're doing. I love having you as part of Bright Minded and continuing that the process and the experience of creating and strengthening those connections from the inside out. And I just have so much love and respect for you. So thank you so much for being here today and sharing your beautiful words.
Thank you so much for having me. It has been a pleasure. It's always a pleasure, even in our Bright Minded classes. I learn a lot, and that is what life is about, learning and growing, and I'm all here for that. I've always been I'm very passionate about growing and learning, and I'm excited. Thank you so much for having me.
Beautiful. Thank you, Mercy.
Thank you.